Hey guys, welcome back to Melanated Truth. I am Lavonda Handy, owner and therapist at Truth Center for Health and Healing. And here we have with us
Nicola Pierre-Smith, a licensed therapist in Pennsylvania, Melanated Women's Health.
So today, Nicola, we are talking about trauma bonding.
Did you get to check out Malcolm and Marie?
Yeah, I was just going to say, triggered by watching Malcolm and Marie, I think this is an example for sure that we can visually get of what it looks like when two people are in a relationship that is essentially bonded by trauma.
Yeah, and that's the basic definition of what a trauma bond is that two people are really having an unhealthy connection based on past hurt or past abuse that happened in the relationship. And I don't know about you, but I think Malcolm and Marie were both being verbally abusive to each other.
To one another, exactly. And you can tell as the movie goes on, there are moments when they both begin to share some of their trauma, and then they use it as a weapon with one another. You know, Marie's drug addiction and any trauma she experienced during that time, as well as Malcolm's family system that has had quite an impact on him, and using it to weaponize one against one another.
Yeah, and it's important for us to highlight that trauma isn't just something physical that occurred, because never once in the movie you saw them physically attack each other. It was just a lot of scathing comments to each other and demeaning comments too. And at one point, we even hear Malcolm made the comment that it impacts even their sex life. It impacts all aspects of their relationship.
And think about what it does to self, right? If you're in this abusive relationship, how your self-esteem can go up and down, and essentially is or needs to be validated depending on that interaction with the person. So if that person's treating you really good, you're feeling really high. But the moment that goes down, I, your negative self-talk probably goes down along with it.
Yeah, maybe we could highlight a few signals or signs that if you're in a relationship and these things are occurring, that it potentially is a trauma bond. And even if you're not using the phrase trauma bond, that it's potentially an unhealthy dynamic. Yeah.
So what will we be looking for?
So I know one thing that was really obvious to me when I watched, and of course, if anyone hasn't watched this as yet, sorry in advance, we're calling out some clips. But there were two significant moments when Marie went outside. She's like using the bathroom by a tree or something. And then, Malcolm is out like looking for her and she says, "You're very needy." Like he always needs to know where she is or what's going on with her. And another moment at the end where he wakes up and she's not in the bed with him. And he has like almost like a panicked response of like, "Marie, where are you?" And then he goes and finds her outside. So that's one of the obvious signs that if there's no independence within the relationship and there's a belief that they have to always be together, always be doing things together, that's a warning sign because there is no individuality. Because on the flip side, we saw that with Marie too, saying, "Why wasn't I casted in this main role?"
So almost like this anxious avoidant attachment kind of style that they have going on, where it's this push and this pull for needing the partner to be there for Malcolm Marie, or for either one of them to be there and constantly be there with one another, and not knowing or needing to know where this person is and constantly be around them and feeling almost dismissed or something around that, like needing to have that person there in order for you to feel engaged or connected.
Yeah. And another obvious one was the belief that you're fixing your partner. Like that's your purpose in the relationship. Because to some degree, Malcolm positioned himself that way. And also Marie, Malcolm saying, well, I was there for you during this moments of your sobriety journey. And Marie saying, well, if I didn't exist, your life's goal to have this movie wouldn't exist either. So it's essentially this tit for tat in that, well, I'm here fixing the situation that you have. And in relationships, we don't fix people. We essentially like compliment them in some degree, that some people may have some areas of weaknesses and another person has a strength. It doesn't mean that one person is carrying the relationship.
Yeah, it almost seemed as they were saying to one another, you need me. Like, you can't exist in this world without me.
Yeah.
In a sense, like, that's also a weapon towards the other person as a way of like not breaking up with them, right? So if you can't do any of these things unless you had me. And essentially it's like a threat. So very, very toxic in their communication with one another.
Yeah, and with that toxicity, you bring up a great point that's really classic in trauma bonding dynamics. It's the belief that you can't leave, or the fear of leaving the relationship, with the belief that, well, life wouldn't be good, or you can't get past the hurt or heal from the relationship, so you have to stay in it.
So I think we've definitely highlighted some really important points. Like, how does one work through this? How does one remove themselves from a relationship that's been, orchestrated due to trauma bonding? And how do you kind of heal and work through that?
So that's a really loaded question, because the first step would be recognizing the warning signs, like a few of them that we called out, and also working on your own healing process, that what brought you to the relationship, what attracted you to this person, and also recognizing when your own like nervous system, your fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses are being activated by this relationship. Because if you're constantly in those trauma reactive states, that mean that the relationship isn't safe.
And if you don't know what any of those words mean, don't worry. We have a video coming up to really talk about trauma responses, because I think it's going to be important for the person to be able to recognize their own trauma and know that it's something that's impacting their current relationships. Because that's something I like to highlight with a lot of my clients, is we don't often realize how things in the past influence us in the present. So having that insight and awareness will help someone track, like, okay, am I in a relationship that's trauma bonded?
Yeah, maybe you could give though a preview of what the fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses are, so people could know that too.
So if you're thinking about fight, right? So our automatic reaction is to go against. And so it doesn't necessarily mean physical fight, but maybe it means that verbal aggressive fight that you're using to attack against someone. Freeze, essentially it means what the word is, right? We freeze, we don't say anything, we shut down, and it causes almost like easily being able to be steamrolled. And in those moments we probably retreat inside, and we have lots of thoughts inside of our head but don't necessarily say them out loud. So fight, flight. So if you're flight, you're going to run away, right? So this is the definite avoidance one. So if any kind of conflict or different things come up, you're saying things like, well, I'm breaking up with you, or you just leave the house, essentially. So doing things that are triggering you to be removed from the actual situation. And then fawn, it's almost this description of someone who just says yes and goes along with anything, right? So being really cognizant, like, am I really sharing how I'm feeling, or am I just agreeing to avoid the conflict?
So people pleasing, in a sense, we saw that at some point with Marie making that macaroni and cheese meal, where she's asking, do you want this? Not tonight? Yeah, like she's just going along with what he's saying and agreeing, but not really engaged in the dialogue.
So having awareness of that, and then definitely being in your own treatment or therapy to start working through your own healing, right? I think we know that it's not easy to just say, I'm going to break up with this person, I'm going to leave, because there is fear wrapped around that. So having a natural support system, of course, like friends and family, and then also being aware, if you have a professional in your life to support you, of how to work through that process and essentially create a safety plan for you to exit in a way that's healthy for you, um, mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah, another thing too is if you're finding yourself thinking that this relationship is no longer feeling like a romantic partnership, it's more feeling like you're a caregiver, then there's a role change that's happening that's signaling that something isn't right with the relationship.
So I think for sure what we want you guys to take away from today is just be observant, right? Look within for yourself, and then look within your relationship to see, like, do you see any of the signs? Um, and if you need an actual example, Malcolm and Marie will be fantastic for you to see what it visually looks like. You can go ahead and find it on Netflix. We found it to be a very helpful movie in showing what trauma bonding looks like.
Yeah, and I would add too that if you find yourself watching it and you're becoming overwhelmed, stop. You don't have to watch the entire thing because depending on your own life history, you may have been through similar experiences, and again, that may activate your own trauma responses. If you're feeling that, feeling any distress, simply stop and switch to something that's more calming and soothing for you.
So we want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments, please share them below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We would love to hear from you. And any additional questions, just send us an email at melanatedtruthllc@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next time.